Black woman came to clean and found a crying baby. When the millionaire saw his son calm, he changed. The building was glass and steel and too many security cameras. An urban fortress designed to keep the world out while letting the money in. Naomi adjusted the strap of her cleaning tote on her shoulder, taking a deep breath before stepping into the echoing lobby. She tried to hold herself with dignity even in her faded uniform. She hated the way the polyester stuck to her arms in summer heat. Hated even more how the man at the desk wouldn't meet her eye but made sure she signed in, checked her ID, and took the service elevator like she might sneak into the penthouse otherwise. But that was the job. A job was a blessing, her mother always said. So she pressed the button, watched the doors slide shut, and inhaled deeply, willing her thoughts to quiet. Up on the 22nd floor, the apartment was cavernous, designed in minimalist whites and grays with cold steel accents that gleamed under recessed lighting. It was silent except for the low hum of an expensive air conditioning system. Naomi set her bucket down gently, listening for any signs of life. Normally she had the place to herself. That was the point, discreet cleaning. Don't talk. Don't ask questions. Just do the job and go. But today, the agency had said the family would be in and out. She didn't know what that meant. Naomi rolled up her sleeves, filled the sink, and began her work. She moved room to room with deliberate care, her own rhythm steady and quiet, like prayer. Wiped the counter, sanitized the sink, straightened the designer bar stools, polished the glass so it reflected nothing of her. Halfway through, she heard it. A sound she hadn't been prepared for. A sharp, brittle wail, high-pitched and panicked. A baby's cry. She froze. It wasn't that she was afraid of children. She loved children. But there wasn't supposed to be a child here. Her eyes darted down the hall, the long white expanse leading to the bedrooms. She hesitated, cloth clutched in one hand, spray bottle in the other. The wail came again, more desperate. She set the bottle down. She shouldn't interfere. She knew that. She had rules, boundaries. But she was a mother herself. And that sound clawed at something primal inside her. She wiped her hands on her uniform and stepped carefully down the hall. She found the baby in one of the bedrooms, an enormous, modern nursery with everything pristine and expensive. A crib that cost more than she made in a month. And a little boy in it, red-faced, tears streaming down his round cheeks. He was maybe 8 months old. His cries were ragged now, exhausted sobs that turned hiccupy with panic. No nanny, no parent, no one. Naomi felt her heart ache. "Hey now," she whispered, stepping closer. The boy turned, startled, eyes huge. He wailed even louder. "Shuh, sweetheart. It's okay." She looked around helplessly. No bottles, no toys in reach. Just the sterile, perfect design of people who had more money than time. She glanced at the door again. She wasn't supposed to touch anything. But she couldn't watch him suffer. She slowly reached in, scooped him up, pressing him gently to her chest. He squirmed at first, fists pounding, breath hitching. She rocked side to side automatically, the old muscle memory of years past when her own son was small. "Shoo, you're okay. You're safe. I've got you." Her voice cracked a little. But the baby quieted. He hiccuped once, then clung to her shirt with tiny, desperate fingers. She stood there rocking him in that stark white room, her eyes stinging. "It's all right, love," she whispered. He pressed his face into her shoulder, breathing finally evening out. Naomi didn't know how long she stood there, the two of them in a hush broken only by the distant city sounds through the glass. But eventually she heard the front door. Heavy. Expensive. Opening. Closing. She stiffened. Her arms tightened reflexively around the baby. Voices. Low, tense. A man and a woman. The baby stirred at the sound, whimpering. Naomi rocked him again automatically, but her stomach twisted. She was not supposed to be here. holding him. The voices grew clearer, arguing. You can't just leave him here alone. I was gone 15 minutes. Don't start. You said you'd be here. A woman's voice, tight and angry. A man's dismissive. Naomi swallowed. She should put the baby down. She should leave. But when she tried to ease him back into the crib, he clung harder, a tiny cry escaping. No, no, it's okay, she whispered. She tried again, gentler. He whimpered, face screwing up on the edge of panic. She heard the footsteps then, approaching. Heavy. Authoritative. She turned just as the door opened. He stood there, tall, impeccably dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt rolled at the sleeves. Dark hair carefully styled. A face made for magazine profiles, handsome but hard, like it had forgotten how to smile. His eyes landed on her. On them. Naomi swallowed hard. The baby whimpered but didn't cry. He looked at her, then the child in her arms. His mouth opened. Closed. Who the hell are you? Naomi's voice trembled but didn't break. The cleaner. She paused. Your son was crying. Silence. Absolute. The baby turned slightly in her arms and made a small, contented sound. The man's eyes widened just a flicker before narrowing again. His jaw worked like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Naomi held his gaze. Didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. She shifted the baby slightly on her hip. He was alone, she added quietly. The man took a slow breath. Then another. Hands curling and uncurling at his sides. Eyes not on her anymore, but on the baby, his son. The silence felt physical. Naomi could hear the hush between heartbeats. She watched the man in the doorway, saw how his chest moved as he breathed slowly like he was counting it out to keep from yelling. Behind him, the woman from the lobby appeared. Tall, blonde, immaculate even in distress. Her eyes darted to Naomi. To the baby. To the man. Oh, for God's sake, she snapped. Ethan, do something. Naomi flinched. She didn't even know she'd tightened her grip on the baby until he squirmed. She adjusted him quickly, whispering into his hair. Easy, love. Easy now. The baby's hand curled into her collar. His breathing hitched once, then settled. Ethan, she supposed that was his name, took a step forward, though it looked like it cost him something. He didn't raise his voice, but his words had that clipped, icy precision of someone who wanted to scream. You're the cleaning service, right? Naomi swallowed. Yes, Naomi. I'm from the agency. And you decided it was appropriate to pick up my son. He said son like it was an accusation. Naomi's mouth went dry, but she didn't look away. He was crying. Alone. He couldn't breathe for it. I couldn't just leave him alone? His eyes were flint. Naomi felt a shiver crawl down her spine. Yes, she said finally. Her voice was softer, but not apologetic. The woman behind Ethan let out a disgusted sound. Unbelievable. This is exactly the problem, Ethan. You hire people. He shot her a glare so sharp she shut up. But her lip curled. Naomi felt heat rise in her face. She wasn't new to that tone. She didn't have the luxury of pretending she hadn't heard it before. But now wasn't the time to fight. Not with the baby pressed to her chest, calmer than she'd found him. I'll put him down, she said carefully. She tried to shift him, but he clung. A pitiful sound escaped his throat. Not the full-throated wail from before. Just a whimper, like he was pleading. Naomi froze. She hated how her own eyes burned. She hadn't planned on caring. You didn't let yourself do that in this job. She tried again, gentler. Come on, sweet boy. Daddy's here now? But he whimpered louder, tightened his fists, buried his face in her shoulder. Ethan watched it all. Expression unreadable. Finally, he let out a breath that sounded like defeat. Just sit, Please. Naomi blinked. What? Sit down. On the chair. Keep holding him if he won't let go. I don't. He stopped. Ran a hand over his face. I don't want to make this worse. The woman scoffed. You're letting her. Elena. His voice was low. Dangerous. She rolled her eyes and stalked out of the room. Her heels clicked like gunshots on the wood floor. Naomi's arms ached from the baby's weight, but she did as told. She lowered herself carefully into the nearest chair. The baby shifted, let out a soft, exhausted sigh, and went limp against her. She pressed her cheek to his hair and closed her eyes for just a moment. It was too quiet then. Just Ethan's breathing, and the hush of the city outside the glass. When Naomi opened her eyes again, he was still watching them. But the anger was leaking out of him, replaced by something heavier. He doesn't do that. Naomi frowned. What? Calm. Like that. With anyone. She looked down at the boy. His damp lashes. His tiny fists still tangled in her uniform. Babies know when someone's with them, she said softly. Really with them? Ethan's mouth twisted. Not quite a smile. Not at all. You have kids. She swallowed. I do. A son. He's older now. How old? 10. And you do this? Cleaning? She tensed. It wasn't the question itself. It was the tone. That old, weary judgment. She forced herself to answer anyway. It's steady work. Pays. He nodded slowly. His gaze dropped to the baby, the tiny chest rising and falling against Naomi's uniform. I shouldn't have left him. He didn't say it to her. Didn't even seem to realize he'd said it out loud. Naomi stayed silent. Some truths didn't need an answer. He moved finally, pulling out a chair across from her. Sat heavily, elbows on knees, face in his hands. For a moment she saw him not as a rich man with a glass fortress, but as something raw and exhausted. Just another parent trying not to drown. But then his shoulders squared. He dropped his hands, looked at her, business returning to his eyes. How much do you make doing this? She blinked. What? Cleaning. Your rate. Naomi bristled. I'm paid by the agency. They set the rates. How much? $18 an hour. His eyes narrowed. A muscle ticked in his jaw. And they pay you for how many hours? Today? 4. He swore softly. Looked away. Naomi felt her spine stiffen. She hadn't asked for pity. She was here to clean, not to be a charity case. Look, she said carefully. I'll put him down if you want. I'll finish the kitchen. I didn't mean to interrupt anything. He was crying. I couldn't leave him. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked to the baby, then back to her. Finish the kitchen later. He rubbed his face again. Stay. Just keep holding him for now. Naomi blinked. Sir, please. His voice cracked on that word. Just slightly. But enough. She swallowed. Nodded once. Held the baby closer. And sat there, silent in that cold modern room, the weight of the child pressing warm and heavy into her, as the walls between them all held their breath. Naomi lost track of time sitting there. She could feel the heat of the baby pressed into her chest, the gentle weight of his head nestled against her shoulder, the rise and fall of his tiny breaths as he sank into true sleep. It was the kind of stillness she'd always treasured with her own son. When he was small, when she was the whole world to him. Now her son was 10, too big to need rocking, too old to fall asleep in her arms. He wanted space and independence, and the things she was determined to give him even if it killed her. But sitting here, she was reminded of what it felt like to be necessary in this simple, primal way. Needed. Trusted. Across from her, Ethan sat hunched, elbows on his knees, face shadowed by one hand. The modernist floor lamp made harsh angles across his features. He looked older in this light. Worn. Naomi cleared her throat softly. He's sleeping. Ethan didn't move at first. When he did, it was slow. He lifted his head, met her eyes. I can see that. There was something raw in his voice. She swallowed, adjusting her hold on the baby so he was cradled more securely. I can put him down now if you want. He shook his head. No. His voice cracked on the word just slightly. No. Don't wake him. She blinked, then nodded. He leaned back in the chair, ran a hand through his hair. He hasn't slept like that in weeks. Naomi felt her heart squeeze. Is he sick? No. Ethan's laugh was bitter. Just alone too much. I travel. A lot. Elena. He stopped. His face closed off. Naomi waited, but he didn't finish. It's none of my business, she said gently. I'm just the cleaner. He snorted. Clearly not just the cleaner. Silence fell again, but it wasn't hostile this time. Just heavy. He watched her. Watched his son sleeping in her arms. Why'd you really pick him up? Naomi stiffened. He was crying. That's not all. She bristled. You think I wanted to? Ethan didn't answer. Just kept watching. Naomi's throat worked. Her voice dropped. Because it hurt to hear him cry like that. Because no baby should feel that alone. Because I've heard my own son cry that way and I couldn't stand it. That good enough for you? He let out a long, slow breath. Yeah, that's good enough. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees again. I don't know what I'm doing. Naomi blinked. It wasn't the confession she'd expected. Excuse me. Being his father. Being here. I didn't plan this. I'm not supposed to be alone with him like this. Naomi's eyebrows lifted. You're his father. Biologically. Sure, but I don't know him. He doesn't know me. She looked down at the baby. Still asleep. Still holding on to her like she was the last safe place on earth. He knows you. No, he doesn't. Naomi's voice was soft, but firm. He knows you're his. Or he wouldn't have calmed down when you said to let me hold him. Ethan swallowed. Looked away. She shifted in the chair, wincing at her stiff back. The baby didn't stir. I'm sorry, Ethan said finally. Naomi blinked. For what? For yelling. For everything. She studied him, the tailored shirt, the expensive watch, the haunted look in his eyes. Apology accepted, she said quietly. He nodded once, then looked at the baby again. What's your son's name? She smiled faintly. Malik. How old did you say? 10. Going on 20. Ethan actually smiled. A ghost of one, but real. Yeah. That happens. Naomi swallowed. Her eyes stung. Yeah. It does. They sat there, two strangers bound only by the hush of a sleeping child, by the raw truth of failure and trying again. He cleared his throat. You work other jobs? As much as I can. You like it. She shot him a sharp look. Do you? He didn't answer. She let it sit. It's work, she said finally. It feeds my boy. That's what matters. Ethan watched her like he was memorizing her. Like he was trying to figure out what made someone like her work. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. Would you consider coming back? She stiffened. To clean, to help. She swallowed hard. That's not my job. I know. I don't babysit. I don't nanny. I know. I'm not some rescue project. I didn't say you were. He let the words hang. Heavy. Real. Finally he said, but you're the only one who's gotten him to stop crying. Naomi held the baby closer. He sighed in his sleep. She didn't answer, but she didn't say no. Outside, the city kept moving. But inside that room, something had shifted. irrevocably. Naomi didn't remember falling asleep, but she woke in that chair, stiff and aching, with the baby still curled against her chest. Light slanted through the enormous windows, pale and thin with dawn. She blinked blearily, feeling a moment of disorientation. This wasn't her tiny apartment with the cracked blinds. This wasn't her bed or Malik's worn-out cot beside it. This was the penthouse. The hush of money was everywhere, in the plush rugs, the sleek furniture, the smell of something expensive she couldn't name. And in her arms was a baby who wasn't hers. She felt her heart lurch. The boy stirred, opened his eyes slowly. For a second he looked startled, as if remembering where he was. Then his eyes met hers and he relaxed with a little sigh. His small hand clung to the fold of her uniform. Naomi exhaled shakily. "Hey there." Her voice was husky with sleep and something else she wouldn't name. She rubbed his back gently. She felt the weight of everything press on her at once. What was she even doing here? She'd come to clean. Instead, she'd spent the night in some billionaire's apartment rocking his son. Her agency would have words. Hell, she might get fired. But when she tried to ease the baby from her arms, he whimpered. His fingers dug in, his eyes going wet immediately. Naomi swallowed. Shoo! Don't wake everyone up now. She rocked a little, purely reflex. The boy settled almost instantly. She realized then she wasn't alone. Ethan stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame. Dark circles under his eyes, shirt rumpled, tie discarded somewhere. He held a mug of coffee in one hand like it was the only thing tethering him to the planet. They stared at each other for a long moment. "I made coffee," he said finally. His voice was low, uncertain, not the clipped authority of the day before. Naomi didn't answer at first. She just shifted the baby again, rubbing his back, feeling the warm, solid weight of him. Finally she said, "I shouldn't have stayed." Ethan exhaled. A humorless huff. "You think I slept either?" Naomi's eyebrows lifted. "You sat up all night?" "Near enough." He sipped the coffee, listening, making sure he didn't cry. She didn't know what to say to that. "You could have taken him," she said carefully. Ethan's mouth twisted. "He didn't want me." Silence fell between them like a stone and water, spreading ripples. Naomi pressed her lips together. "He's just a baby. He doesn't know how to want anyone. He just knows safe." That landed. Ethan's jaw worked. "And you're safe," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Naomi felt something in her chest pull tight. She swallowed. "Maybe just for now." Ethan closed his eyes, nodded once. He pushed off the doorframe slowly, like he was older than he looked. "Can you stay today?" She blinked. "You want me to clean?" "No." He shook his head. "Just stay. Help with him." "That's not my job." "I know." "I'm not," she stopped herself. "I'm not a nanny." "I know." She held his gaze. "Why me?" Ethan's voice broke a little. "Because you're the first thing in a long time that's made him stop crying." She didn't look away, didn't smile, didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. They stayed like that for a moment, the baby sighing between them. Finally, Ethan dragged a chair over and sat, facing her. "What's your son like?" Naomi blinked at the question. "Malik? Yeah." She settled back in the chair. The baby shifted but stayed asleep. "He's stubborn. Funny. Too smart for his own good. Loves math. Thinks he's grown." Her voice softened despite herself. "He asks too many questions. Drives me nuts sometimes." Ethan listened, elbows on knees, coffee cooling in his hands. "That sounds good." She shrugged. "I try." "Does he know how hard you work?" Naomi's smile faded. "I don't know. I think so." "I hope so." She swallowed. "I don't want him to know how tired I am." Ethan's fingers tapped against the mug. Yeah. He stared at the floor. I get that. He was quiet for a while. So was she. Just the baby's gentle breathing between them. Finally, he cleared his throat. Look, I don't know what I'm doing here. Naomi raised an eyebrow. Parenting? He huffed. Living. She didn't laugh. Because it wasn't funny. None of us do, she said softly. He looked up sharply. Their eyes locked. Stay, he said again. She shook her head slowly. I have to pick up my son from school. I have to work. I have bills. I'll pay you. Her spine stiffened. I don't want your pity. It's not pity. His voice was urgent now. It's a job. I'm offering you a job. Help me with him. I'll pay what you make cleaning. More. Naomi swallowed. The weight of it all crashed in. The rent due. The uniform that never really got clean anymore. Malik's 2 small shoes. You don't know me, she whispered. I'm starting to. Silence. The baby stirred. Sighed. Settled. Naomi looked down at him. Ran a thumb over his tiny hand. I'll think about it. Ethan nodded. Relief and something else flooding his face. That's all I ask. And so they sat there in the thin dawn light, both knowing nothing was decided but everything had already begun to change. Naomi didn't rush her answer. She went home that day after easing the baby gently into his father's awkward but willing arms, watching the way Ethan held his breath as if terrified to drop his own child. She watched him try. That mattered to her more than anything he'd said. When she let herself back into her apartment that night, she found Malik on the couch with his math workbook open and his eyes half shut. He startled awake at the sound of the door. Mom, you're late. She dropped her cleaning bag by the door and went straight to him. Wrapped her arms around his too thin shoulders. I know, baby. I'm sorry. He squirmed, embarrassed, but hugged her back hard. Did they make you stay late? She paused. Sort of. He frowned. You gonna get in trouble? She ruffled his hair. No, I don't think so. Not this time. That night, lying on the old mattress they shared, she stared at the cracked ceiling and listened to his breathing slow into sleep. She thought about the baby's weight in her arms. The way he'd stopped crying. The way Ethan's voice had cracked when he'd said, stay. She didn't sleep much, but she dreamed anyway. When she went back the next day, she didn't wear her uniform. She wore the nicest blouse she owned, pressed as flat as she could make it with the iron that sputtered steam. She hesitated at the door so long the concierge gave her a funny look, but she pressed the buzzer. Waited. When Ethan answered, he looked relieved. And wrecked. Dark circles, shirt untucked. The baby fussing on his hip. Naomi's heart softened before she could stop it. Hi, she said. He just nodded. Come in. Inside, the place was a mess. Not like a bomb had gone off, but enough signs that real life had intruded on designer minimalism. Bottles, blankets, toys. It felt more human than it ever had. She took the baby gently when Ethan offered him over. He settled into her arms like he belonged there. Naomi swallowed. He remembered you, Ethan said hoarsely. She didn't say of course he did. She just nodded. You still want me to stay? Ethan looked at her for a long time. More than anything. It's not cleaning. I know. I don't have training. You have instinct. I have a kid. Bring him. We'll figure it out. That silenced her. She shifted the baby, who was dozing already, breath warm on her shoulder. Her eyes burned, but she didn't let the tears fall. Okay, she whispered. He exhaled like he'd been drowning. They fell into something like routine after that. Days that started with chaos and calmed as she held the baby. Conversations that got easier, deeper. Her teaching Ethan to feed his son without wearing it. showing him how to soothe a teething fit, laughing sometimes at the absurdity of it all, and sometimes crying when no one was watching. Malik came one afternoon, sullen and shy at first, until the baby giggled at him. Then he was enchanted. Ethan sat on the floor with them, suit jacket discarded, socks mismatched, watching them play, his eyes soft in a way Naomi hadn't thought possible. "He's good with him," Ethan said quietly. "He's had to be," Naomi replied, voice catching. They didn't talk about the money at first, but he paid her. Well, and she used it to buy Malik shoes that fit, groceries that weren't on clearance, a new pillow for herself. One night, after they'd put the baby to sleep and she was gathering her things, Ethan stopped her. "Naomi." She paused. "Yeah." He looked like he might lose his nerve, but he didn't. "Thank you." She let out a breath. "For what?" "Everything." She shook her head, smiling even as her eyes glistened. "It's not everything." "It is to me." She didn't have an answer to that, so she just nodded. Outside, the city roared on. But inside that glass and steel tower, a man learned how to hold his son. A baby learned that comfort could be a voice that wasn't his mother's. And a woman who came to clean found something like a family. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real. And that was enough.